Okay, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. Really appreciate your time and super excited to kick the year off with good energy for all of us. So we are looking today to kind of get things moving for AppSmart Energy Services and talk a little bit about the landscape and some of the changes that have come up recently. So as you can see here from the agenda, we will first talk a little bit about market metrics and kind of take a look at what's happening in the market today. We'll move on to procurement. And for those of you that are newer, we'll do kind of a review. The first 5 or 10 minutes or so, we typically do kind of a review for newer partners. And there's a lot of you on the call today. So we'll look at that. We will do just a quick channel manager panel, talking with some of the folks that you work with today at AppSmart. And then we'll do a collateral review. For those of you that are not aware, we actually have the ability to give you collateral that you can co-brand and send to your customers. We will talk about the extended spiff, which is really nice. And then we'll do an IoT overview as well a little later. Joining me and speaking today will be Patrick Mason as well on regulatory changes and technology updates. So he'll focus more on efficiency and IoT services, and also there'll be a case study. One of the most exciting things about our agenda today is AppSmart Marketer. We couldn't be more happy to announce the fact that we've got a full campaign that you can literally start selling energy overnight, and you'll have a lot of resources to do so. So please don't miss that. And then we'll wrap it up with some Q&A at the end of the call. So with that, I'm just kind of going to the next slide here, looking at who's joining us today. So we've got Nick Collins, Senior Channel Manager in the West. And we've got Jeff Solinsky, who's a channel manager who's in the Midwest area. And of course, Patrick Mason, who many of you know already from AppSmart Energy Services. Also want to mention, excited to mention who's joining us today. A couple weeks in, it's Mr. Mark Bergerman. He's the Senior Manager of Energy Operations for AppSmart Energy. So Mark, maybe you can say hi real quick.
Yeah, thanks, Vince. Happy to be here and happy to start supporting everybody.
Thanks, Mark. And Mark is a SME on procurement, so he'll be a great resource to all of us in that regard. Let's go ahead and move to the next slide. So with this, you can see the market trends. And so we talked a little bit about this in Q4. And what's exciting about this trend is that we're starting to see the patterns. So if you look at this visual aid, you can see that in late 15 through late 19, there was a 4-year cycle, and it was a 3-year bull market, 16 to 19. So gas prices hit a high in November of 2020 and then dropped in December at signs of a mild winter. So you can kind of see that in the right section of the visual. Right there, you see how it's going up, and then it dropped, which was really interesting, that trend that we were seeing there. So anyway, the next slide kind of speaks more to some of the background, and the mild winter that I referred to. So that mild winter kind of ended up resulting in prices not being as high as many had thought they would be. For those of you that are joining our webinars, we were talking about that late last year, the concern with the pricing and the down market going up into 2021. So 2 things that can affect the pricing in energy. One of them is the weather, and that's a very unique thing. Not a whole lot of other industries that are affected by that. The other is the economy, and certainly that went through a roller coaster ride last year. So we saw a lot of dips and valleys with that. Moving on to the next slide, you can actually see that. So once again, you had that cycle that was going on, and then you had a pattern where you can see here. You had the initial low in July, which is really interesting. Actually, the last week of June, it hit a low of 144. Which is very low, and it was at this point of the year. But then you saw it go up really fast. If you look on the visual aid there, you can see that in August alone, the price went up almost $1. So it was a really big shift. But then again, the next month it went back down a lot as well. So you can see there was truly a roller coaster ride of pricing, particularly as we got it closer to Q4, the last trimester of the year. It was extremely volatile. So Today, we're actually at 280. And so that pricing, has definitely creeped back up. But there still is a good opportunity for everyone. And because again, if you think about it, the entire industry has the same issue of the pricing being a little higher, right? So from a competitive standpoint, we're not at a disadvantage there. So moving to the next slide, on this one, we like to talk about, where you can sell and where you can't sell. When we talk about procurement, once again, electricity and natural gas only, we're talking about a limitation on the geography for those states. On the map here, you can see the states in green are actually deregulated for electricity and natural gas. So either one, customers can switch over their service to another provider and potentially save a lot of money. So that's an important thing right now. I think a lot of customers really, really need that. So you've got that as a factor. So the savings that you can see, well, actually backing up 1 second. So green, electricity and natural gas. And then you've got blue, which would add about 4 states for gas only. And then you can see you've got other color coding. The red, that would be the areas you cannot sell in. And so we've got in the Northwest, a few states. So that are a factor on that. And the final thing, and actually there's a question right there. Thank you, Michael. So when you look at the gray states, these are areas where you'd have to have a spend of at least about $5,000 in either gas or electricity, or in this case, it would be gas. So if the spend's $5,000 in the same utility. So to be very clear here, it's the utility, not necessarily the state. In other words, if you had $5,000 in a state amongst 3 different locations that were in different utilities, that would not necessarily qualify for this program. But if you had 2 different locations, say 2,500 each in the same utility, that would qualify. So again, as you have more questions, please do put them in the chat. We'll be happy to address them as we go. That was a great question and very timely. So as we look at this a little bit more to understand it, a couple things. First of all, customers can see like 10 to 40% savings. 40 is a little bit on the higher end. However, we're still seeing that. We've had customers last month that we were looking at that kind of a save for. So that's nice. And as I mentioned, the prices are relatively low still, so there's a good opportunity there. Another one I really like is the fact that it's a billing change. So in telecom connectivity, we have to install circuits. It's a much more involved process for a truck roll, all that kind of stuff. No truck rolls, no installation, it's a billing change. Think of UNIP local services back in the day where you would just switch them over from the LEC to the CLEC, and it would just be a very simple motion. So that's a good example of that. Another big benefit here is it comes from the same source. So it's all coming from the grid. So unlike in telecom and connectivity, where it's, okay, am I going to bring an SD-WAN network in? What am I looking at? Where is it going back to the data center? How am I connecting that network? All of these considerations, all these SLAs, all the things we have that we deal with in the telecom connectivity space are not an issue in procurement. It's really a price when it comes right down to it. That's the main thing to think about. So it makes it much easier to actually sign customers up. And then my favorite actually in energy is that there's no tickler files in energy. You can actually sign up a customer today at the relatively lower rates that we're probably going to see much higher rates in the spring. As the March, April type months, the prices are going to probably go up. People are predicting that. So right now is a great time to get the bills, get the electricity and natural gas bills. We'll be happy to do a proposal for you, get you what you need. But the important thing is that it's almost like a little bit of a mini land grab still, because there's an opportunity here, and because, again, before that pricing goes back up. So the idea here is get the bills, get them to us. We can do proposals for you. You can get your customers locked in now at the relatively low rates. A couple months from now, gas is likely to be in the $3 range, or the $3+ range, I should say. And so it'll be a little bit tougher to save customers at that time. So again, it's a kind of a call to action for everyone to jump in, and it's a good opportunity, you know. And again, when you bundle energy services along with your telecom connectivity, we don't lose customers when we do that. The customers really love it when they have one source for their utilities. In fact, a lot of advisors today have been calling themselves utilities advisors. We suggest the same. That approach can really work, especially right now in light of what happened last year. A lot of people have been shifting their business models. So to be more clear though, very specifically, you sign a customer up today and they basically have, you know, 3 to 6 months of time where it can go by, that contract expires, and then they get today's price 6 months or a year from now. So it's a really good opportunity that way. Go ahead and move to the next slide. And on this slide, we start talking a little bit more about, you know, some of getting under the hood a little bit, and talking a little bit about, you know, what's going on in energy space and some tips for all of you. So here we've got, you know, Nick and Jeff joining the conversation. And so Nick, I'll start with you. What is your favorite thing about energy?
Well, it's hard to nail it down to one topic, but for me, I think understanding what a lot of advisors look for is a sales cycle, and it's a very short sales cycle. It's not complex. It's a matter of getting bills, submitting it to our team, and we really take care of the rest. I think for me, though, what really is a highlight for energy is that it's something in working with AppSmart that if you approach your customer with an energy inquiry to help, most times they've not seen a consultant or an advisor come to them with that. So it's something new that can open new doors with new logos or current customers that can create a lot more stickiness where they look to you as an even more in-depth consultant. And so if it's a new logo, I think that they could look to you for all of the other services, and it might be a way to win more business and start the conversation around energy. So I love it as an introductory door opener, as well as the sales cycle.
Great point. And I think, you know, the differentiation we have, it really does change the conversation, to your point. So Jeff, how about you? Favorite thing about energy in the energy space?
Yeah, I would have to echo what Nick mentioned about the shorter sales cycle. One thing is it is pretty unique. You can start out with the utility, being that you said it is just a bill switch, and then layer on and go into IoT and how those devices can help with the energy usage and get down to each machine.
Another great point, and you know, and we'll touch on that as well, right? So the devices and the equipment and the space as well. A lot of opportunity there to do more with the systems. How about guys? What tips do you give to advisors for selling energy? Nick, how about you start that one off?
You know, general tips is to, one, be altruistic enough to go and ask for those bills from your customer. Make sure that you're studying different facilities and locations within your customer's topography and footprint across the nation to know where energy opportunities are there to discuss. You know, a lot of times we see the map that you just showed, Vince, and you know, you may look at that map and think that you're limited with opportunity, but really with your nationwide multi-location customers, I believe we really should be looking at helping them strategically in the locations where gas and electric and all the opportunities are there. And so I think what I'm saying is look at your multi-location customers, your nationwide customers, and assess what facilities and devices, and like Jeff said, machines they're using at that site, and have the conversation. Don't be afraid to bring in Patrick and the team to have the conversation and dive a little bit deeper into the ways that we can help our customers.
Yeah, great point. And I think that, you know, what I hear there is sort of like, you know, a lot of people have been like, well, this has got to be a whole bunch of work for me to learn, and it's a whole different industry. I just don't have time to pivot. You know, it's a real common one that I've gotten. And that's why when I've said, hey, look, you know, it's actually way easier than what you're doing now, and it's going to help you increase the retention of your base. once again, as I was alluding to before. So yeah, very good point, Nick, on that. Jeff, how about you? Tips for advisors selling energy?
Yeah, the way that I approach this with the advisors I work with is treat it as an ancillary product. Go back to the base of customers that you have, where you are the trusted advisor, and go in and just let them know, here's one additional thing that we can do. And as I mentioned last question was go in there and talk about saving money, and then from there lead it into the IoT and grow that book of business within organically.
Yeah, and I love the IoT conversation because you're right. It's just differentiating, and we'll talk more about that one. So, a couple more quick questions. Actions. So, what are the actions that are required by an advisor to kind of engage here in the energy space? Nick,
I can handle that.
go ahead, John.
Yeah, I would say the best piece is to start off with your channel sales manager. Let us know what the opportunity is, and then we can gather the right resources for that opportunity. So reach out to your dedicated channel sales manager or channel sales specialist, and from there we will engage with Patrick and team.
Thanks, Jeff. Nick, how about you? Anything to add to that?
Yeah, in terms of process, I think, it's a similar process with myself. Engage a channel manager. We will get the right resources, on the phone or in front of your customer. Gathering the bills is important, but as Jeff mentioned earlier, it's about, from what I've seen, saving money. And, ask first if your customers are open to looking at savings associated to energy and gas and other, electricity. And from there, bring in one of your channel managers. We'll get Vince and Patrick and the team that you see here involved, and we'll run with you the entire time from A to Z.
Nice. Yeah, I appreciate that. I think you're right. It's just, kind of like getting ready and getting engaged and, setting the table, right, for the conversations for the year with folks. And to that point, actually, and a good one for you all to write down to Nick's point just now is, if you have questions for us, it's energy@appsmart.com. It's very simple. And I think, Nick was spot on. It's just, send an email to the channel manager, but feel free to throw us on that email too, right? That way, hey, people are busy. And so if it comes down to it, something time sensitive, we could jump in and help if needed. But yeah, please do reach out to your channel manager and kind of work it from there. It's interesting. I see a question there about partners in the Northwest would have to have customers. Yeah, we'll get to the questions at the end, but it's a great question, and keep them coming because we're going to hit those a little bit later. So relevant. Last question for the panel would be what to expect after you submit the bills. Just kind of like any feedback that that they can expect on that. Jeff?
Yeah, I would say after the initial discovery, typically the bills will say if they're within contract, who they're within contract with. And then I believe, you correct me if I'm wrong, if it's 2 years or less, we could possibly lock them in, and I'm sure we'll talk about that more.
Absolutely. Yes, we will. Perfect. So, I guess we'll just move on at this point. So thanks, guys. And we'll continue the conversation a little bit later too. When we're looking at, I mentioned earlier, collateral. So it's nice that we've got some good marketing materials for you to go to market. We understand it's a different industry and you need that time, right? So this first one is the selling guide. This one is for internal sales teams only. It's not one that you want to co-brand or a private label. It talks about the benefits of procurement, gives you the persona and the sales target, really good information to help you understand, which type of people to talk to in the organization. Has some qualifying questions as well. So it's nicely identified for sellers. And then it's got that map as well as a reference guide. So moving on to the next slide, we've got, energy procurement. And this is the one that sort of is more customer facing. This is the one that you would send to your customer if you're talking to them about electricity or gas. Like the selling guide, it also has that graph And it shows that lower pricing, right? So the visual aid, I think, is really nice for the customer facing piece. Also has the benefits and the 3 simple steps, and a really good quote actually on the bottom right, from one of our customers, actually a really large customer that we brought in Q4, who's super happy. My favorite comment on that quote is that it's someone in Chicago or the Illinois area who didn't even know they could switch. And deregulation occurred, almost 15 years ago out there. So you'd be amazed how many customers don't know. In the Northeast, it's the most mature market, so a lot of them know up in the Northeast. But the Midwest and Texas, sometimes customers don't even know. It's pretty incredible to me. On this next one, this is also a customer-facing piece. So it's designed so that it's talking more about efficiency services. And this one has a really good IoT quote on the bottom of it. One where the customer is using several different AppSmart Energy Services products and services, which is nice. So this one is co-brandable. You see the gray on the bottom of it. That's where you can put your contact information or a team contact in general. And then on the upper right-hand corner, you see across from where the AppSmart logo is, we can put your logo. So for those that are really committed and want to do an energy campaign, we can consider a private label. But for that, we would need a commitment and a kind of a mini business plan to just have only your logo on the sheet. We need to know you're committed and that you have some knowledge base for us to run with the private label. So anyway, on this one, you can see there's recurring on the left and non-recurring on the right. So moving on to the referral program, the next one, this one, simply put, 50% of something is better than 100% of nothing. And the idea here is you could be sitting there saying, I'm too busy, I just don't have time, or this is going to be too complicated for me. I'm not going to, it's going to be a stretch for me to jump into it. But you may be saying, hey, look, I'm interested in this. I just don't know if I can make the pivot. This program is amazing because literally you could email your customers and you could copy energy at appsmart.com. We would literally help close these deals for you so that you don't have to, get in the mix and be involved in every one of them. And it can help you to learn the process kind of like as you're going, right? So you're taking advantage of the relatively low pricing still now, and you're actually getting some results going, and you get 50% of the commission, but you don't have to do any of the heavy lifting at all. It's basically just get the bills, set up a call, and we can run. This is really good for folks that are thinking, okay, I want to do a full-blown campaign and I want to scale this and do a lot of activity. It's a really good program for folks in that bucket. Let's go ahead and move to the next slide. And so now we're moving on into the conversation about IoT. And so, a lot of people talk about, connectivity, mobility as IoT, this combination. I feel like energy gives you the antenna, right? It's basically it's the third dimension of IoT. I call it, the trifecta. Ultimately, in my opinion, as you're looking at this visual aid, you can't power systems. Think about it. That electricity is the foundation of that account, right? So it's powering all this stuff. It's powering devices and equipment and everything else. So energy is at the foundation of IoT, and it also helps when you're dealing with in-building and environmental and climate control and things like that, HVAC, all kinds of services like that. Building controls in the cloud. It's a great product for those of you that don't really want to leave cloud, but you want to get into energy. We have a product that can control all of the sensors in a building from one pane of glass, as an example. But going back to this slide really quickly, on it you can see data, right? You can see on the lower left the data analytics, and then you can see the apps, right? When you look at these IoT devices, these IoT applications. So if you combine those two together, you've got, that's a big part of IoT. When you add devices on the top there, you see IoT devices, energy sensors to be as an example, and data analytics You can see the data analytics down there on the left. You are actually the data storage was what I referred to before. Analytics is something that we're actually going to be launching pretty soon, and it's a super exciting product that we've got coming up. The point being here is that IoT is absolutely dependent upon energy. And so a couple things maybe to write down for your customers and to help you get into help you to go from connectivity, into the IoT space to get the energy services spun up. The idea would be, and you might want to write this down, what is your IoT strategy? If you ask the customers that, especially enterprise or mid-market customers, they're probably going to have an answer for you. And again, it's a good opportunity to, if they don't, then it's an opportunity for you to talk to them about the full suite, right, including energy services. So I wanted to give a quick look at this. And that creates a true IoT platform, as you can see in the middle there, kind of all the pieces. So Patrick will be talking more about this later. I just really wanted to give a higher level view of it. He'll be speaking more in terms of energy specific IoT a little bit later. So moving on to the next slide, here we have a look at the procurement and kind of how that space looks. If you can see here, as we start talking about the regulatory landscape, that you've got your renewables cost right there. You see the green, and then you can see like the reference point. So really, as we go into the future, you can see the metrics that are going on there, right? That's basically left axis is going to be cents per kilowatt hour, right? And you can see that cost of renewables is kind of flattening, right? So you've got low oil and gas supply, you've got high oil and gas supply, and then you've got that renewables reference in the middle there. So, the automated technology that I referred to, which is going to take the hassle out of procurement, it's going to drive down everything, right? The cost, and providing the peace of mind, et cetera. So, that low price environment due to mild winter and low forward natural gas prices, that market watch analysis, right? So this is something that we watch closely and we can help you with. And then again, as I mentioned before, lock it in ahead to get out in front of that curve of where the pricing may go. Another thing I didn't mention before, I think it's really important to mention that it's really in energy, it's really about savings over the entire journey of the customer. And so think about it this way. Let's just say you sign them up today at $280. And let's just say that pricing is going to be going up in that bull market, in the next couple of years. And let's just say it goes up to, $350. Well, sure, the savings right now may only be 10% off of what the utility is giving. But when that price goes up next year, all of a sudden now that's a relative savings of maybe 20%, right? So you have to think long-term when you think energy, because, again, you've got a lot of factors involved. So it's really important to think long-term on that. That's kind of the main message of this slide. So with that, I do want to hand it off to Patrick to talk more about the regulatory landscape and some IoT. Patrick.
Great, thanks, Vince. Thanks, everyone. Happy to be here. And I just wanted to quickly go back to the Q&A with Nick and Jeff. Just jotted down a couple things that I thought were important. The ease of starting a conversation around energy. I think everyone knows what energy is. There isn't really too much you have to talk about to educate them on that. So it's a great starting point to talk about energy. The channel approach to it, I don't think anyone else is doing it quite like AppSmart is. So you have a lot of support here to help you with that journey. And then Jeff mentioned the layering of solutions on top of, if you go in with procurement first and get their gas and electricity, the ability to layer on other solutions is really quite easy. So that's exciting. So just wanted to start here and give a brief history on electric generation and kind of set the stage for discussion on IoT. We're looking here at sources of fuel that help generate electricity. But as you can see, renewables are really the only one likely to generate electricity at the source of use. This is oftentimes called distributed generation. Instead of getting your power from a large organized network or grid, you get it from your rooftop or battery storage or a hyper-local microgrid. And these sources of energy will most likely need a system in place to analyze and control and monetize its use. As you can see, renewables are on the rise, and they will be part of a decentralized system for getting electricity. At the state level, setting goals for reaching energy use from renewable sources by a certain date is managed through a renewable portfolio standard. The standard will be achieved through various financial means, either punitive or by extending rebates and incentives to minimize the cost of implementation. Many of the recent opportunities that we've been working on here at AppSmart come from a shift in corporate standards as well. So it's important to know, not only are the states setting goals, but companies are as well. And I was on a call at the beginning of this week with an advisor and his client, who happens to be a very large industrial manufacturer that has an aggressive goal set by corporate to reduce their overall environmental impact by 30%. So we're going to help them achieve that through the resources we have in the AppSmart Marketplace. So the next two slides, we just kind of wanted to help track at a high level regulatory policy coming from the government that touch on energy. They include incentivizing the deployment of clean technology, improving the energy efficiency of commercial buildings, creating incentives for deep retrofits, and extending federal investment tax credits. Also identifying barriers to help offset the upfront cost of building upgrades, repair and accelerate the building code, and accelerating the deployment of electric vehicles by working with nation's governors and mayors. So I'm not sure if anyone saw their recent GM announcement last week that'll stop making gas-powered cars, trucks, and SUVs by 2035 and become carbon neutral by 2040. That's one of the largest car companies in the world, drawing a line in the sand. And while it's maybe nice to believe that they're doing this to be good corporate citizens, the reality is they're doing it to remain relevant and protect shareholder value. So what does all this mean, and how can advisors take advantage of IoT for energy? Wikipedia defines IoT as a network of physical objects that are embedded with sensors, software, and other technologies for the purpose of connecting and exchanging data with other devices and systems over the internet. So when talking to your clients about connectivity, mobility, cloud, and what they need to help manage and leverage and maintain them, ask them about energy as well. You'll be surprised at what they've already done or what they know they have to do. Let them know you have an energy practice to help them with all that. Next slide. Building IoT brings an array of products and services to help your customer manage, tune, and operate buildings through data, recommissioning, and continued monitoring. Borrowing from innovations in cloud computing, the Internet of Things together with consumer apps come up with an easier approach to manage a building. Proactive warnings on issues, equipment diagnosing itself, and service calls as easy as calling an Uber minimize waste and allows for more efficient operations. We do believe that energy is the foundation of IoT solutions. And quite frankly, without energy, we lose a lot of what we take for granted, including this webinar. So the next slide, I wanted to bring in Jeff on this one. Spotlight on an IoT deal that Jeff brought through one of his advisors. Pretty quickly growing MRC to 50K after they do their 12-month initial rollout or trial, and then rolling out to 30+ locations. So as you can see, it was a cloud energy management solution. They had some KPIs that wanted to report back to a dashboard that measured energy cost, load, runtime analytics, and they wanted to benchmark the operations current use and figure out how to use it better. So I don't know, Jeff, do you want to talk a little bit about how this came to be and what your thought was on the process?
Yeah, thanks, Patrick. This is a key example of being a trusted advisor. This advisor has an existing relationship with the customer, and procurement reached out to them and said, I see you're on our list as an advisor. Here's what we're looking for. And then they sent it on to AppSmart, and the team is working with them. I think the cool thing is it highlights here at the bottom, we were working with some pretty large companies to get this business, including IBM, Rockwell, Honeywell. And we were able to get this deal because down, I would say, almost at the finish line, IT got involved and said, we do not want this to hit our network. And through our provider Riptide, we were able to pivot and make sure that this was able to work outside of their network, where the bigger companies were not able to pivot like that. So very cool. Very excited to see what when this finishes.
Yeah, that's great. And I think, the legacy IBM and Rockwells of the world are extremely sophisticated, but have been in a space to charge quite a bit of money for a solution that can be provided at a subscription level at a lower cost, but achieve the same results. So that's the technology obviously reduces costs and increases ability to analyze. And that's what companies like Riptide. And part of our goal here too at AppSmart is to just stay at the cutting edge of seeing what's new around analytics and bringing that into the marketplace to be able to use. Riptide is a perfect example of that. Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it. So if a lot of you don't know, the AppSmart Marketer tool, while it's not energy specific, it's a specific tool in the marketplace that allows you to basically spin up a store overnight. In this case, an energy store. And within the marketer in the AppSmart marketplace, you can enter in contacts, brand it with your logo, and send out these campaigns, allow the marketer to track it and track engagement, opens and clicks, and any conversions done from the campaign that you send. So it's a really powerful tool. And within the marketer, we do have a pre-baked campaign around energy that you can take advantage of today. And I want to
Patrick,
a little bit.
Go ahead. Yeah, I'd love to chime in. Sorry about that. I was muted. So, with this, I think, to Patrick's point, I think it's just an amazing tool. When I talked about the energy store overnight, kind of what I was referring to is, number one, enter your contacts into the system. Number two, track the opens of your customers, and you can kind of check in with them, and you can schedule a reach out to them. Number three would be your dashboards and your analytics and the ability to kind of see, what's going on with your campaign, right? So it truly is a store. It's not just, plug in your leads and send out a blast. It's much more than that. So I think I just wanted to kind of chime in on that. So, the next slide, and Patrick, feel free to jump in if you want after me. I just wanted to mention quickly on this one that it's nice. You got a nice social media drip element here. You've got two assets shown. And so the idea being that you can, that there's different things for different customers, right? Some are interested in procurement, some are interested in efficiency. So it's a great way to kind of customize according to the customer's needs, right? So Patrick, anything to add on?
No, just a great solution. I've many times in the past have been asked for email scripts or ways to approach and market the energy solution. And we really made this so easy for you. It's already pre-baked and done. It's just a matter of uploading contacts and hitting send. So take advantage of it.
Great tool. And Nick, any feedback you may have on it in terms of, your use of it would be fantastic to hear.
Yeah, I think that I've had a lot of success, a lot of interest and intrigue into this tool. And I think there's one case study from one of AppSmart's top partners here in California where, they're using a subset of maybe 4 different tools to campaign and conduct a lot of their inbound and outbound marketing. And we all know about sequences, drip campaigns, social media presence. And when you combine up to 4 tools to get that done, you're paying quite a lot of money per year, per month to conduct those marketing efforts. What the AppSmart Marketer was able to do for that particular partner is essentially displace all of those tools. So not only is it from a partner standpoint, looking at AppSmart, a cost savings platform that'll allow you to create a presence, but it's also going to save you money. And I think that's exactly what the point is here from an energy perspective. I'd say that a lot of customers have not been approached from a consultant to talk about energy. And so if you can create a presence for yourself through a tool that we're providing for free, it's an empowering opportunity to create a new revenue source in your business and use a great platform to create whatever kind of presence you'd like. Energy is not the only one, like Patrick said, and we're going to be creating a lot of neutral assets that don't just point people into one corner or one direction as far as a product's concerned. So I would really just advise partners to look at this platform and consider what you can get done with it for your business.
Thanks so much for that, Nick. Very helpful. And yeah, again, just a super powerful tool that we'd love to see all of you take advantage of. We can definitely help you get going with all the resources between Marketer, the referral program, and there's a lot of other resources for you. So, okay, so looking at the next slide, super excited to announce that the SPIF was extended. So it's a $500 SPIF, and basically the way it works is it's on a 3-year, it's a $72K contract value. So however you can do that, up to 3 years, we can set that up for you. That runs through the end of March, and it's a good opportunity. Again, we want to incent you all to jump in with all these resources we have and the SPIF. I think it's a great opportunity to help start off the year strong and get a new space to cut into. Ultimately, again, about that retention. So let's take a look at the next slide. And this one is a great one, and I want to talk for just a quick minute about. I mean, save the date right now, please, for an amazing event. AppSmart Unleash is going to be a way for you to transform your business. This event that we're having in April 20 to 21, will give you everything that you need to run your business and also transform your business into services like SaaS and energy. We're going to be talking about them at Unleash. We've got some great keynote content coming up and that kind of thing. So you can learn more about that at appsmart.com. So please take a look at appsmart.com and register for Unleash before it fills up. We've got a lot of activity going on with that one. So again, we'll look forward to seeing you at AppSmart Unleash for sure. And then with this last slide, a couple of things to mention. Just as a reminder really quickly, all you need to do is get the bills. We want to keep this really, really simple for you. So, we've talked about some complex things here on the call. That's all stuff that we can help you with. So if you're sitting there thinking, okay, this looks a little complicated, or I feel intimidated, we can join you on these calls with your customers. You don't need to know anything about energy. You have a relationship with your customer. You're a trusted advisor of your customer. And so it'll be much easier for you to upsell energy services to those customers. And we're here to help you with that. So, just a couple quick announcements. We have our next energy webinar on Wednesday, February 24th. We're going to be talking about some very hot verticals on that call, like commercial real estate, data centers. It's going to be very exciting. So you can learn more about how you can cross-sell, right? So we've talked about upselling. Now let's talk about cross-selling. So that's what we'll be doing on that call. And, I want to also mention quickly that, if you want collateral that you saw today, if you want training materials, Mark just literally spun up one on electricity, and we're working on a whole bunch of others in the module. We can send those out to you so you can learn more. The best way to do that is to just stay on here for a quick survey that's going to be coming in the chat in just a minute here. And you can ask for that information on the survey if you'd like, or you can email energy@appsmart.com, and we can certainly help you that way as well. So I think what we want to do now is open it up for Q&A to address some of these questions. I actually have some that have come through the queue, and I believe the one that was not answered that I found was industries for gas. Great question. And Mark, maybe you can help us with this one. But from my perspective, manufacturing, anyone that's going to have a large refrigeration, that kind of thing. These are the industries that are hospitality, like restaurant chains. Really, really good opportunity. Dry cleaners. Think about the people that are using the gas, right? Those are good prospects. Patrick and Mark, anything to add to that?
I think that's spot on. I mean, aggregating a large restaurant base, number of locations, commercial laundry. Think about facilities that use natural gas maybe to heat their pools. So as you mentioned, hospitality, and having to keep pools at a consistent temperature. So Those are great verticals.
Yeah, and I'd also just add in there, healthcare is a terrific vertical, high energy user in the space, and then as well as education communities, university colleges. Just think of all the energy spend with all of the classrooms and on-campus activities going on. Maybe not as much today as before, but in the future, it's something to really look into.
Thanks so much for that, Mark. So the next one that I saw, and actually there was one that was answered, but I think that, just because we have a couple minutes here, we can answer some of these for you. How to support on-site customer service. The great news there is that the utility continues to do the customer service. And that's why I was saying how easy this motion is. Because again, the work's done up front. You get the bills, we identify the solution for them. And to answer another question that came in, there's lots of providers, dozens of providers in energy out there. AppSmart is a broker, just to be very clear, kind of like a master agent in the telecom space. We are a master broker in the energy space. So the providers out there, like, you look at Constellation or NRG, that's like the AT&T or Verizon would be in telecom. Those are companies like similar to those in the energy space. Another one that came in was in the Northwest. Customers have to be outside the market. The efficiency products and services that we talked about, HVAC, building controls in the cloud, stuff like that, there's a whole bunch of others, are really good for those regulated states. In other words, the states that are gray and maybe don't have a big gas spend, or just in red, right? So those states that are in that state, no pun intended there, are basically the ones that we would want to look at other products and services for. So that would be a good answer to that one. And then from that, still looking through the chat here. And
Vince,
yeah, go ahead.
I was going to jump in and say too, another really cool industry that you educated me on with some of my partners is property management, but more so building owners, so if you have contacts that are owners of large facilities across the nation in different markets, imagine telling an owner that, their spend for energy and electricity could go down. They're going to be interested in, property management companies. If you have customers who are the heads of departments at property management companies that manage millions of square feet across the country, might be a good conversation to have.
Yes, very good points. Thanks, Nick. A couple more that came in as well. Someone had asked, can we get a copy of the map? If you get the collateral from us, you have the map. So I think someone asked for the deck. We generally don't send the decks out, but we can send out the collateral, the marketer information, all of that kind of stuff. Another question that came in was, does the size of the deal matter? And the answer is yes and no. From a can I sell it perspective, the answer is no. You can sell accounts. There's no minimum. And also the collateral kind of speaks to that as well. I will say this, the commissions in energy are a little, lower than they are in telecom, but there's still recurring revenue commissions and stuff like that. So I guess the best way to put it is, sure, when you're starting off, signing up a friend or a relative or something like that, it's a great idea, just so you can get your feet wet. You don't have anything to worry about. I mean, basically it's a billing change, as I mentioned. And if they're locking in a lower rate, then there's not going to be any surprises there, right? So, but we do recommend that because I think it's a little easier to get started. Sign yourself up, sign up someone that kind of thing. Now, the pricing for those smaller customers is not going to be, nearly as competitive as someone who's doing, several megawatts of electricity. However, that's the main point, right? It's the same thing in telecom, and you'll see better pricing for people that are bigger customers. What's interesting though on that point is that, in energy, actually the lower level, the lower the contract term is, the better rate you get. And because if you think about it, right, they're hedging against weather and the economy. And right now that's, not an easy thing to do, right? No one's ever experienced anything like this. And so if you go back 80 years maybe, or 90 years, but ultimately, yeah, it's a landscape that it's very hard to predict. And so I think that's a really important point that you consider that in your motion there. Anyway, so, and then how to obtain customer facing literature. So yeah, again, in that chat, you should see a survey that you can actually take, and you can ask for it there, or you can email energy@appsmart.com. That's another way to deal with that. And let's see, here's another one. If a customer in Michigan is getting a bill from DTE, will they still get a bill from DTE? Very good question. The answer is yes. Like with telecom, remember how we used to have LEC billing back in the day? I'm probably dating myself right now. But anyway, basically when the bill would come from, say, AT&T or Verizon or something, and just for the local service though, right? That would be the LEC bill. Similar in energy, the utility will continue to invoice the customer for transmission and distribution. Generation or supply, by the way, you might want to write that down. Generation or supply, those are the two terms of the compensable forms of energy. Transmission and distribution, think of the local loop, right? In telecom, it's very similar to that. They didn't even use to compensate on that. Telecom is much further along its deregulation path and independence than energy is. So yes, so they still would get a bill from DTE for their transmission and distribution. Let's see, last questions here. Who engaging with at an account level for the initial discussion? And the collateral also speaks to that. But I'm gonna actually ask Patrick and Mark to take this one because they're more customer facing. So guys, any feedback on that one?
Yeah, I think CFO and CEO decision makers who are interested in understanding how to save money on what they may already be buying with electricity and natural gas. And the IoT, Vince, your vision there was always to bring that in and bridge the gap between what we're selling on the connectivity side with energy through an IoT play. So some of the deals that I think even Jeff's opportunity with Riptide came in with the CIO or that side of it. Mark, anything to add to that?
Yeah, any real operations manager or individual who has, a bottom line that they have to hit every year, I think they want to show operational savings and ways to generate better efficiency within their organizations. With so many organizations nowadays having tremendous budget constraints, this is a great opportunity to right off the bat to show them savings and help their P&L.
So, just as a sub question from that, is the decision maker a different person than the initial contact? I believe so. I mean, I think it's C level, right? C and D level typically, right?
Correct.
Typically, yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, and let's see, getting towards some of the ends of the questions. And let's see, we had sold volunteer in the past. What is the difference? No difference. I mean, again, volunteer, Mark, they're a rep, aren't they? I believe they are. Yeah.
They are. Yeah. So they're a small rep in the Midwest.
Yeah. So no difference there. Only the fact that you'll have a much bigger footprint to sell in. You can sell anywhere. We've got dozens of providers. Just like in the past we were a sourcing expert, and AppSmart certainly has taken that to the next level in terms of sourcing in the past few years. In the same motion, we also are going to provide services anywhere we can, and that big gas, the gray states that were on the map, that's an example of that. That's a special motion to be able to get into those states in that way. So let's see, looking to gain access to marketer. Yeah, so just reach out. That was from us. Here's one more. IT guy asked me, how do I tell my CFO that our telecom guy is now dealing with energy? Okay, yeah, so that goes back to what I was saying, is like the shift from becoming a connectivity provider into becoming a utility provider. So being able to do both, it resonates with customers. They actually like it a lot because now they can deal with you on both instead of having to deal with a different person for every product and service they have. These are both utilities. There's a lot of similarities. So my suggestion would be approach them as, here's a good one to write down. In light of what happened last year, I have made a pivot and I'm now a utilities consultant or utilities advisor, right? That really works from pretty much everyone I've talked to about it. That's the one that we've honed in on. And so that's the way to kind of get there. And then appreciate the comment, energy certification course. It's coming. You can bet. We've got that on the roadmap. So thank you for that forward-thinking statement. And we are working there. But again, you don't have to pretend to be an expert, right? I think the key, and that was a comment in there, the key is to, hey, I work with a team of energy experts, and I'm getting into the utility space. So if you can give me your bills, I'd love to get on a call with you and them and see what we can do for you. That really is a way to have that conversation, because I wouldn't recommend trying to kind of come out like this stuff. Again, after some training, you'll know enough to be dangerous, right? So you can start having that conversation. But I think in the beginning, it's better to kind of keep it simple and, hey, I've got this team that I work with, blah blah blah. Obviously, over time, you're going to get there. So, okay, I think that is about it. If the survey is in the chat, so if you look at 10:46 a.m. in the chat, you will see the survey there that you can click into it. We really appreciate the feedback very much. It helps us to do better for you going forward. And I guess the last one is the service broken out from DTE, but on that DTE bill. No. Actually, what would happen then is you get a bill from, let's just say, Volunteer Energy, just a name that I heard, for the supply or the generation portion of the account. And then for the transmission distribution, you just continue getting billed as you were for that. So let's see. I think that's about it. Great questions, you guys. I mean, this is awesome. I don't think I've seen this many questions before. One more before we adjourn. Will the client receive a bill from AppSmart each month? No. The bill will come from their utility, as it has been all this time, and then they will get another bill for the electricity or natural gas portion, the supply portion of that. So, and I guess there's a reminder there that this has been recorded and it will be accessible, which is great news. Sign yourself up. So this can be residential, not just commercial. We're looking for commercial accounts here. That's our focus. So yeah, to that point, we don't do residential services. So, but if you have a business account, then we can do that for you. Okay, great. So I want to ask everyone to take the survey. And with that, we'll see you next month. Actually, 3 weeks from today is our next call on the 24th. Reminder to save the date for Unleash, April 20 to 21. And we'll see you next month. Until then, good energy, everyone. Thank you. Have a great day.